Today we are doing 7.3, Understanding the Pythagorean Theorem and Solids. On this first one, it is wanting us to find the slant height. So last chapter we talked about the slant height. So the slant height in this case is this length right there. There is a right triangle that we can use to find that. If we look here, the slant height would be our hypotenuse, this would be a leg, and that would be a leg. So we have to know two of the side lengths. So on this we have the 480 feet, and we know the total length is 756 on this side. So halfway then, because this would come down halfway, would be 378. And that's really hard to read. So we'll do that one more time. 378 is the second leg. So we have a right triangle. We're trying to find the hypotenuse, which is C. We do 480 squared plus 378 squared is equal to C squared. That gives us, if I put that in the calculator, it gives us approximately, when we calculate it out, and don't forget you have to take the square root of it, that C is approximately 611 feet. Our next one is dealing with a cone. It says Susan uses the cone-shaped paper cup shown to get some water from a water cooler. What is the depth of the paper cup? Round your answer to the nearest tenth. By depth, it means this. It can be drawn on the outside or on the inside. Either way, it means the same. So here's our right angle. Across from it is our C. A and B are interchangeable. So we have A squared plus B squared, which is what we're looking for, is equal to 10 squared, because that's our C. We end up with B squared is equal to 10 squared minus 5 squared, which is 75. Take the square root of both sides, and we end up with B is equal to the square root of 75, which is approximately 8.7 centimeters. Again, we have a cone. This time we have a party hat. So the radius of a cone-shaped hat is 5 centimeters. The slant length of the hat is 8 centimeters. So it's the same as slant height. What is the height of the hat? Round your answer to the nearest 10. So if I look here, I'm trying to find this height. Again, always locate your hypotenuse across from the 90-degree angle is your C. So we have A squared plus 5 squared is equal to 8 squared. To solve this equation, we subtract 5 squared. So 8 squared minus 5 squared gives us 39. The opposite of squaring is to take the square root. So we end up with A is equal to the square root of 39, which is approximately 6.2 centimeters. Okay, here is one with a sphere. It says find the value of the variable and round to the nearest tenth. We want to know basically the whole height of the sphere. Well, if this is the center, this would represent half the height. And this would be the half the height as well, because remember the sphere, the radius are always the same length. So here is our A and here is our B. But in this case, both of these would be congruent to each other. So I'm going to treat them both as A's. Here is my 90-degree angle, so here's my C, my hypotenuse. So I have A squared plus A squared, because they are the same length, they're congruent, is equal to C squared, which I should put that number in there, and it is 12 squared. A squared plus A squared. 1A squared plus 1A squared is 2A squared. Is equal to 12 squared, which is 144. Divide both sides by 2, and I get A squared equals 72. The opposite of squaring something is to take the square root. So I get A is equal to the square root of 72. But if I look there, that is only half the height. It wanted the total height. So if that's half, to get the real one, I would take it times 2. So this gives me x, which is the variable I'm looking for here, is approximately 17 inches long. So make sure when you solve it, then you look to see if you found what they're actually looking for. In this case, we had to take it times 2 to find the total height. A straw that is 18 centimeters long, a straw that is 18 centimeters long fits inside the glass shown. The height of the glass is 15 centimeters. The radius of the glass, find the radius of the glass to the nearest 10. So I'm going to mark that the straw is 18 centimeters. And I know the height of the glass is 15. Well, if I complete this right triangle here, basically what I'm trying to find is the diameter. So it says find the radius of the glass. So once I find the diameter, which is one leg of the right triangle, I can find the radius. So across from the 90 is the C. So I have A, which I'm going to treat that as 15 squared plus D squared. I'm going to use D this time so I remember it's the diameter when I get done, is equal to 18 squared. 18 squared minus 15 squared gives me 99. The opposite of squaring something is to take the square root. And I end up with D is equal to the square root of 99. I don't want to round this yet because I'm actually trying to find the radius. To find the radius, you divide it by 2 because radius is half the diameter. So then that will give me approximately, and now I can round because I'm at my final answer, of 5.0 centimeters. So try not to round until the very final answer. Our last problem here is the figure shows a cubic stool of side length 15 inches. The length of the diagonal of the base, EF, is square root of 450 inches. Find the length of the central diagonal, DF. Find both the exact value and the approximate, so this time is both. That 450 is representing the length of the diagonal EF, so that square root of 450 is here. We know this height on the right triangle is 15. And we are trying to find the central diagonal length here, which actually is our C. So one leg is the square root of 450 squared plus the other leg, which is 15 squared, is equal to C squared. The square root of 450 squared, remember the square root's the opposite of the square, so that cancels out, and you're just left with 450. Plus 15 squared, which would give us 225, is equal to C squared. So we have 675 is equal to C squared. The opposite of squaring it is to take the square root. So we end up with the measure of the side length DF is equal to the square root, because it said both the exact and the approximate. Square root is 675, which is approximately 26 inches. Okay, your assignment, you don't have any guided practice, so you're done with this, but now your assignment to practice these types of problems is the following. Page 34 through 35, and you have 1 through 11. So once again, pay attention to that assignment. Page 34 and 35, 1 through 11.